Contingencies have to be made. Portal season internacional starts right now.
You are Locked On UConn, your daily podcast on the UConn Huskies, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks for making Locked On UConn your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Do me a quick favor, see that little button on the bottom of your screen, click subscribe. It helps our channel grow, our audience grow, and frankly, I truly appreciate all of your support. It's invaluable to me. Listening to Alex Karaban interview talking about Dan Hurley, what he has told him about this combine experience, about how to go all in, don't cheat yourself out of this experience, is a testament to the culture he's created and the trust he has with his own process. So, with that said, I mentioned this yesterday. We all have jobs. At that job right now, you are valuable to a certain extent, correct? But you are not irreplaceable. Nobody is. And maybe there are some exceptions to that. But with that being said, Alex Karaban would be a tough replacement. But like I've also mentioned, they believe they have his replacements already in place. So what's the next steps? We went through a few different scenarios yesterday in this portal season / potentially looking at players that aren't going to make an impact. But we have to look at the aspect of international players, because let's be honest, if Alex Karaban is gone, and I believe the longer it takes, the higher the likelihood he does go, contingencies have to be made. And lucky for you, I put together a list of 4 international players to look for that would fit the contingency plan we're looking at as if they decide to go this route. We may just get to 3 of them, but there's 4 that I'm looking at pretty much in depth. We'll see how the day goes. And if I butcher some of these names, apologies in advance. I've already butchered Singari. I've already been hammered on the fact that I had a brain fart and didn't know that Shabazz Napier had 2 championships, although I corrected it almost immediately. Sorry about that. Anyway, the first mention of this list of the international men of mystery is what I've been typing for this segment is the prospect known as Alexandros Samodurov. He is of Thessaloniki, Greece. So he's a 6'11", 200-pound power forward. He's got a very slim frame, so he stands out. If you check this guy's out, I've did a deep dive of all these players. It's clear he needs to get stronger to handle long minutes at the college level. However, his tremendous foot speed and overall quickness for his size are potential game changers. He has fluid hips, agility make him for an agility that makes up for his lack of strength, giving him an edge in both the offensive and defensive situations. His slightly longer than average wingspan also compensates for his lack of vertical explosiveness, allowing him to contest shots and rebound effectively without elite athleticism. Samodurov's ability to attack closeouts and beat his man off the catch with a good first step is a valuable asset to UConn. While his handle is still developing, he's effective at getting to the rim, which fits well with UConn's modern offensive style. At UConn, he could play a pivotal role in a 5-out offense. Similar to the way Oso Ighodaro runs offense with Marquette, they could use Samodurov in this situation. Yes, he would be an impact player and not start right away, but would take minutes away from some of the players that we have currently. In his current usage, Samodurov's primarily a screener and spot-up shooter. So again, maybe not so much. UConn can utilize his skills in various screening actions and weak side plays, capitalizing on his ability to catch and shoot, even though his shot mechanics need some refinement. Does that sound like Alex Karaban? Everyone's talking about his mechanics in the draft. His quick decision-making and ability to execute off-ball screens will be crucial in UConn's offensive schemes if he decides to come here and if they're looking at him. Areas of development. Samodurov has shown a tendency to play passively at times. With UConn's coaching staff can help him become more decisive, encouraging him to cut more efficiently, take more open shots, be a little more physical with his screening, and without really hesitating to be the key to unlocking his full potential. He has great off-ball movement and ability to get open through screens are already his strengths. Already pluses for UConn's offense. but he needs to work on his confidence and decision making. Again, younger player, I believe he's 19 years old. This would be a kind of a perfect developmental pick for UConn to bring him in and say, hey, we can get you to that next level where you are legitimately a lottery pick. At UConn, he can develop all these skills further, learning to make quick reads, no paralysis by analysis. You read it and trust it. Now, defensively, Somodorov's quickness and length make him a versatile defender capable of guarding multiple positions, thus checking that positional versatility Dan Hurley and his staff crave. His agility allows him to switch onto smaller players. His wingspan helps him contest shots and disrupt passing lanes. As he adds strength, he will get better equipped to handle physical post players, making him a more complete defender at the college level and ultimately in the NBA. Now, Somodorov's skill set aligns well with UConn's emphasis on positional versatility, as I mentioned, and speed. His ability to play both inside and outside, combined with his defensive potential, make him an ideal fit for the Huskies. UConn's developmental process can help him add the necessary strength and polish his offensive game, particularly his shooting and decision-making, would need. His ability to stretch the floor, attack closeouts, defend multiple positions, makes him a valuable addition to the Huskies. I say all this to say that this kid would be an impact player, but a developmental one nonetheless. Like we mentioned, you don't go to UConn a finished product. You go to UConn because you're sold on getting to the next level. This kid is not ready for the pros. A lot of these kids put their name in the NBA draft. They don't have agents that are NCAA certified, so they're allowed to go play in college ranks. This is a kid I believe they should target. We're going to talk about more international portal season coming up after this. Passion, drive, and patience. The formula for winning championships is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find something exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Please look at eBay Motors without you're not burning rubber, your cash. With all parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only, exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit, only available to U.S. customers. Well, now that I've butchered eBay Motors ad, let's take a look at a couple more international portal prospects. Sounds good coming off the tongue. Portal prospects. There's one guy. Listen, this guy's name, if we were to get him, the signs at Gamble, the signs at Madison Square Garden, wherever we played, good and bad, would be amazing for this. Very easy name to say. Also a name that is very easy to kind of write and do all these different cool stuff that I feel like our fan base would go crazy with. His name is Ruben Prey. Exactly the way it sounds. Prey. Prey is the prototypical big man who excels in the paint. I just think of him as, the type of guy, if he came here, think about the games against Providence. Like, Providence is our prey. Like, all this different stuff that, and that people could be more creative than me. But also could go the other way if he doesn't play well. But anyway, Ruben is a 19-year-old player from Portugal. He is currently playing in Spain. He is a big man with modern skills, making him a perfect fit for UConn's outside focused play style. His ability to rebound, set screens, score in the lane, efficient twos, provide the Huskies with a strong presence in the post. He has solid footwork and movement. Despite his big frame, Prey has solid movement and demonstrates good footwork on the post. His ability to maneuver effectively in tight spaces will be crucial to executing UConn's offensive scheme and maintaining a strong defensive stance. He has emerging offensive skills. He is not as polished as our last Greek player that we mentioned. I'm not going to butcher his name again. Prey also flashes some face-up skills, has a promising jumper. Although they'll probably like to see if they could stretch him out a little deeper. His range might expand over time. So not there yet. He already shows the capability to handle the ball, which is great. take his man off the dribble. His versatility on offense makes him a dual threat in the paint and from the mid-range. Even though mid-range is kind of extinct, you still need some of that float game, the ability, if it's not there, to have a guy that can bail you out at the end of the shot clock, and adding a dynamic element to UConn's offense. He's got good physical attributes. He's got great length, frame that suggests he will fill out well over the years, become an even more dominant physical presence. He is more of a strong and powerful player rather than a vertically explosive athlete. So for those of you who are in the realm that we're not as stout as we could have been, and, we're a little, not as thick or strong as we could. We have a lot of guys who are long and lean. This would fit that billing. He has good rebounding skills. Will also be able to be a major asset for UConn, providing the team with a second chance opportunities, which I love, and securing defensive rebounds to limit opponents' scoring chances. So the fit at UConn, good physical attributes, aligns well with UConn's emphasis on strong interior play in the respect of screening, in the respect of tough defense. He's not going to be the guy that's going to come in and be this offensive threat. So this is kind of the opposite of the last gentleman that we spoke about, kind of some of the guys we talked about yesterday on the show, the Lance Wares of the world, but just younger, more developmental. His ability to contribute immediately in the paint, combined with his potential to develop a more versatile offensive game, makes him a valuable addition to the Huskies. That can be up for debate. I don't necessarily know if this player would come in and be one that would play right away. He's younger, needs to work on refining his game a little bit. I think he's got a good combination of, traditional big man skills, but with emerging offensive versatility with handling the ball, and it positions him to thrive at UConn if they were looking for an international prospect. His strong presence in the paint, solid movement, potential to expand his range will make him a key player for the Huskies, helping the team compete at a high level in the future past next season, and potentially boost his draft stock for future to come. Well, are you watching Fox Sports or ESPN on your TV all day? Have to turn down the volume with all that shouting? Make the switch to Locked On Sports Today, a free 24/7 sports streaming channel programmed for you every day to bring you the biggest stories without all that screaming. Locked On Sports Today brings you can't-miss analysis, opinions, and news, streaming 24/7 on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channels app. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Now, the third and final prospect, we won't have time to get into the fourth. If you want to know some of the list of people that I reached out to, again, use the podcast email, lockedonpodcast@gmail.com. I'll send you all the different stuff I've done on these international prospects, some of which are early entrants into this year's draft. Others aren't really draft eligible until 2027. So there's quite a few. I picked a few that would make sense. Probably a few names that I could say on the air without tripping over myself. So keep that in mind as well. The next prospect would be an immediate impact player. His name is Melvin Ayinka. He is of Paris, France, born and raised there, 6'8", about 220 pounds. He's ready for a high-level play and continues to get stronger. Some believe he could even be drafted in this year's draft. I don't see that. While he may not be elite in any single area, his ability to do nearly everything makes him an invaluable asset to teams. So, again, I did a lot of this based off of what they're losing with Alex Karaman going pro. This guy is a little bit of a Swiss Army knife. One of Aninka's standout skills is his perimeter shooting. He has emerged as a reliable three-point shooter, which could differentiate him from other wings if he does decide to play in college basketball. He's not just limited to catch-and-shoot situations. He has a dependable step-back game, which is also useful in terms of next year not necessarily knowing if we have the guy. We don't have the Tristan Newton or the Cam Spencer. We have guys that replace them, but they're not as proven, right? So his smooth playing style, poise, and patience allow him to let the game come to him, making him a consistent offensive threat. When he has the ball, Yinka's shifty crossover and strength enable him to penetrate the lane effectively. He doesn't shy away from contact, which is great, especially in international play. Plays with very strong physicality, which would bode well in the Big East, which will be crucial in competitive environment in college basketball. Correct. So defensive capabilities. Everyone always asks whenever I bring up a player, can he play defense? Yes. He has the potential to be very, very good on defense. He's already capable of guarding up to 3 positions. He can, and that's the beauty of this. We always talk about, well, we're a little short this year. We don't have the guys. if you get this guy in this profile, this kid Ayinka, he's 6'8". He's a legit 6'8". He can also guard a point guard if need be. He's that fast. His speed and length also allow him to take on multiple perimeter players, as I just mentioned, shooting guards and point guards, making him a valuable defensive asset. Ayinka is also a very polished rebounder for his position. His physical play and ability to mix it up will be beneficial for UConn, providing them with an additional presence on the boards. His willingness to embrace physicality is one of the reasons why I feel like he would adapt quicker than any of the members, any of the other international players I mentioned, because his body is built for the pros already. He's got an impressive international performance under his belt already. Ayinka's performance at the FIBA Under-19 Basketball World Cup in the summer of 2023 showcased his potential. With a good season at UConn, if he does come here, his draft stock could rise significantly. Remember, I understand there's no such thing as NIL with international players. We heard about that with Zach Edey. He's Canadian. He didn't get any NIL money when he was at Purdue, which sucks for the player. But as far as UConn goes, you can get a phenomenal player that you don't have to pay a cent for. Just the ability to come here, get a different sense of another country, raise their draft stock if they need to, be a part of a winning program. So that's another aspect of this that I haven't even mentioned. His combination, but back to Melvin Ayinka, his combination of shooting and defense and physicality make him one of the most promising prospects in the international game, who could develop into a much more than a role player under Dan Hurley. So I see his skill set transfers incredibly well eventually to the NBA, which is what people do when they go to UConn. They come to UConn, polish their game, refine how he shoots, gets some kind of semblance of how to defend without fouling, play physical. It would be an invaluable asset to Dana Hurley and his team. Maybe a year, maybe two, potentially propel him to rising in the draft boards. Ayinka feels like the perfect complementary piece who could become a standout and be the next player at UConn, not named Liam McNeely, not named Jalen Stewart, the guys who they already have on their roster. So we are going to get off of the transfer portal international and talk about banging the drum of Big East expansion coming up after this. I'm really excited for the NBA playoffs, and I have been as they started. There's nothing like the energy of a live game, and I'd love to attend one, maybe two this year. Game Time makes it super easy to get playoff tickets. Game Time is an authorized ticket marketplace for the NBA, and their prices actually drop closer to the tip-off with great last-minute deals. It's easy to find affordable tickets. Recently, I've been writing a little bit for Celtics, for different blogs on the Knicks, and I looked at some of the upcoming games for Celtics games and Knicks games that I'd love to attend, and the app made it simple to find and buy tickets. One of the best features is the seat views. You can actually see what your view will look like from any seat in the arena before you buy. This really helps you in making a decision. Plus, with their all-in pricing, you see the total cost up front with no surprise fees. Game Time's last-minute tickets and flash deals are great. You can save up to 60% of off by buying tickets at the last minute for sports, concerts, comedy, theater, and more. We all saw The Roast. Go find yourself a good comedy. I'm going to see Matt Rife next week on at the Comedy Zone. The zone deals are another fantastic feature. You choose a section and Game Time picks the best seats available, saving you even more. Their lowest price guarantee is really impressive. If you find a better price, Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. Their ticket coverage offers flexible customer service, including event cancellation and job loss protection. Take the guesswork out of buying NBA tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms, again, create an account and redeem the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Last minute tickets, low price, guaranteed. Download the Game Time app today. All right. Just as I've said to you guys before, loyal listeners, first off, thanks again for sticking with Locked on UConn, in particular in the off season, as we find things out together. I'll always be here to talk Husky hoops, talk about the Big East, talk about where this program is going, and I'm excited about one of these next topics, right? The banging of the drum of Big East expansion. For those of you who think I'm crazy, there was an article by, God, what's his name? He's Yahoo. Pat Ford, or Pat Forty, or Pat Ford, either or. He chronicled the ACC and the proactive nature of how difficult it is right now for Jim Phillips in the ACC, with Clemson, with Florida State, potentially leaving and suing them for God knows what, you know? And so when you think about that, there's a quote, and I'm going to paraphrase it, from Coach K that says, I think we should go and see what the Big East is doing, because there's only one conference in the country that thinks about basketball all day long, and that's Val Ackerman in the Big East Conference. Now, you may not like Val Ackerman. I may not like Val Ackerman. I'm not going to say one way or the other. However, she resides over the only conference in the country that has multiple national champions, that only plays basketball. Are there a few members of this conference that play football? Yes. Not at a very high level. Let's just put it that way, right? And that includes our UConn Huskies. It hasn't always been the case, guys. I understand that. Please spare me, UConn football fans. I get it. I root for them too. They just don't win. So here's the deal. Big East expansion is going to happen, or the Big East is going to die. And why not take a page from what people have considered the most influential college basketball coach since John Wooden, in Mike Krzyzewski, and start to get creative. Not every school has to play football and basketball in the same conference. You see it all the time. Hell, Notre Dame has been in the ACC for everything but football for 50 years. And I'm overstating that. So, welcome to the new Big East, a legacy of champions. Adding Duke, adding North Carolina, adding NC State. Carolina, 6-time national champion. Duke, 5-time national champion. NC State, 2-time national champion. Then, a tier below that, Gonzaga. Mark Few, future Hall of Famer, as consistent as a program as there's been in the past 20 years. Adding that brand elevates you even more. Then, if you're adding Gonzaga, you might as well bring St. Mary's along with them. They've had a solid program for the last 20 years. Randy Bennett's been there, I believe, for that long, nipping at Gonzaga's heels year after year of success. How much does his program benefit from coming to the Big East? And I wouldn't stop there. That would just be the start. So I think you have to get to 20 teams at some point, 20 teams in the Big East by 2028, so that you can be solvent. Because to have a 20-team conference that is main focus is the money driver is basketball, you need to have multiple avenues. They have great presence in New York, great presence in New England, great presence. Now we have great presence in North Carolina, in what they call the hoop state, right? Then you have the middle of the country with Chicago and Marquette, middle of the country, Creighton, Marquette. I mean, the possibilities are endless. So by 2026, you have the 5 teams that I mentioned, plus you obviously have the original members. So you have UConn, Marquette, Creighton, Villanova, Georgetown, Providence, Butler, Xavier, St. John, Seton Hall, DePaul. Then by 2026, you add North Carolina, Duke, NC State, Gonzaga, St. Mary's. Then you get a little freaky, okay? Because you can't add Kansas, you can't go and add Houston, all these, top 10 teams in the country, because even though we're a super conference, we're trying to be strategic, right? I want rabid fan bases that aren't going to care that we don't play football in the Big East, right? So you add a second tier group, Dayton. There isn't a more loyal school in the country that follows their team. Loyola, most recently in the Final Four of the A-10. These are mostly A-10 schools, right? Then I take either Indiana State or Drake from the Missouri Valley. The folks in the Valley are nuts about hoops. Take one of those schools away. Maybe you take both. And if you take both, then you can't add VCU. But I think I add VCU because they were a Final Four team under Shaka Smart. Would add a nice little regional rivalry with some folks in North Carolina. Also, cool to have VCU versus Shaka on a Big East basis. Guys, we have California all or in the Pacific Northwest all sewed up with St. Mary's and Gonzaga. Then you have every major market in the East and in the central part of the country. It makes too much sense to continue to expand and make the Big East an absolute power. Look, Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. Now it's also available on Amazon Fire TV and the free Fire TV channels app. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports of the day with your local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. Find Locked On Sports Today now available on the free Fire TV channels app. This has been another episode of Locked On UConn. Look, guys, I would love for you again, subscribe. If you're an audio listener, make sure you write a review. Make sure you give me a 5-star review. If you don't want to give me a 5-star review, give me an honest review. Would always love to get better. Would love to hear your thoughts. Looking forward to just another day in the books here. I'm your host, Mark Zanetto, asking you to stay locked in, stay connected. Make sure your toughness meter is always rising. And as always, go Huskies.